Someone who was a top organizer for Trump's inauguration has turned on the White House. Stephanie Walkoff, a longtime friend of Melania Trump, telling the New York Times she was thrown under the bus, disputing White House claims that she was fired last year from her unpaid role advising Melania, and pushing back against anonymous White House officials who accused her of profiting from the inauguration. Here's the quote. "Was I fired? No. Did I personally receive $26 million or $1.6 million? No. Was I thrown under the bus? Yes." Here's the thing. Stephanie Walkoff is talking to investigators with the Southern District of New York who are looking into the inauguration. A probe triggered by the federal raid of Michael Cohen's office. That raid uncovered recordings that Cohen had made of Walkoff talking about her concerns about the inaugural committee's spending. The news tonight, just a day after Cohen went to prison, another former Trump loyalist is breaking with Team Trump and not pulling any punches. Joining me, Steve Kerrigan, who was president and CEO of President Obama's 2013 inaugural committee. Steve, thanks for coming in. Look, you know better than anybody what's involved in running an inaugural. So what would Walkoff potentially know that would be of interest to SDNY?
How all that money was spent. And she says that she didn't personally get $26 million and she didn't get personally $1.6 million of that money. But if she didn't get it, who did? I mean, the clearest answer to all of this and what she can be most helpful with to SDNY is to go through all of the financials of how the $107 million was spent. I mean, this was either a colossally mismanaged inaugural that spent more than we spent of President Obama's inaugurations in 2009 and 13. It was either mismanaged or, frankly, it is just an inaugural slush fund that was put there to pad the pockets of all of the President and the First Lady's friends and business partners.
I mean, look at that graphic. $107 million. The other, going back to Clinton, dwarfed by that number. Again, I mean, even before any legal questions were raised, did you see that number and say, what the heck are they spending all that money on?
Yeah, it was egregious from day one. I mean, it's a recipe, by the way, for corruption, because the rules around transparency for inaugural funds are almost non-existent, and frankly, the Congress should be acting on that. Yeah, it's egregious that the Congress of the United States, and they are working on it. H.R. 1 has some language in it that they took up about inaugural funding, but really, Congress should put in place some transparency rules. Right now, you're supposed to report all of the donations that you receive as a committee, and only the top 5 expenditures that you make, and you spend $107 million. His top 5 were all in the $20 to $25 million expenses, and within those are $500,000 we know for a fact went directly to Ms. Walkoff as a payment to her, which, by the way, $500,000 is more than the entire senior staff made at the 2009 inauguration for President Obama. The entire 12-person senior staff made less than that money. No, what's not? Believe me, I'd be doing inaugurals every 4 years for the rest of my life if it was, but it wasn't. I mean, that's what this comes down to. Is we need to have transparency, because when there is not transparency is when we have all kinds of opportunities. $2.7 million paid to support performers who are coming to the inauguration that Steve Wynn brought with him from Las Vegas. I mean, you've got Tom Barrack, who, by the way, should be looking for buses like the one that Ms. Walkoff got thrown under, left, right, and center, because that man had a dinner where they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of the inaugural funds to carpet the place, the Mellon Auditorium, where they had a dinner for the chairman of the inaugural. You know, inaugurals are there to celebrate a peaceful transition of power, not to pad Tom Barrack's personal pocket by giving him business opportunities to invite 1,000 guests that will help him in his business later.
I've only got 30 seconds left, but Walkoff said she did not discuss the inaugural spending with the Times because she signed an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, saying, quote, "If the committee were to release me from this obligation, I would be able to speak freely without the fear of legal or financial repercussions." Are NDAs common for inauguration officials? Did you have to sign one?
So I checked with a few of the folks who worked with me in 09 and in 13. I don't remember signing them. Maybe we did. But certainly the intent, if we had them, was to keep planning private before the inauguration so as not to create any security risk and not to protect somebody from legal liability when it comes to graft and misspending of money. I'll tell you, the people are dispendable to the Trump family. And frankly, it's something that people like Tom Barrack and Steve Mnuchin should be looking out as they are, frankly, obstructing Congress in the actions that they're taking. But this is really, transparency would really help solve all of these problems. But we're never going to get that out of Donald Trump or his administration. And hopefully in a couple of years, we'll have a Democratic inauguration that can help hit the reset button for the United States of America.
And I'll just make note of the fact that you are, in fact, still in touch with and clearly friendly with people you worked with on the inaugural.
Yes,
Steve Kerrigan.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Still ahead.